Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm your host of Conversations with Cierra, and I'm Cierra. On this channel, we confront, confess, converse, cut up, and kiki about the issues of life. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I've uploaded, I think about 4 videos now, and those address identity, daddy issues, living in the shadow, being promiscuous. So I guess it's been 4 videos, and then I had an intro video. But today's video is a little bit different because it's a truth that I definitely needed to share. And that is about, well, I'll just say this. We live in a culture now that's big on therapy. I'm team therapy. But I had an experience, and that's what I'm going to talk to you all about, of me getting kicked out of therapy. Like, I signed up for therapy. I was in therapy for a very long time, and your girl got the boot out of therapy. So, my therapy journey, I am a social worker. So I've been in the mental health field for almost 5 years now. Prior to that, well, yeah, I've been out of grad school about 5 years now. So I've been in the mental health social work field for about 5 years. And of course I was in college with the master's in social work. So I got the education piece, and I got the 5 years experience. So for years, I wanted to go to therapy. I never went to therapy. And then 2019, I was actually in a group of friends. And at that time, therapy was the thing to do. So 2 of my friends was just like, hey, I signed up for therapy. One of my friends actually went online, found a therapist, and my other friend had used her employee assistance program, the EAP, to find the therapist, and that's what they did. So I was like, why don't I do that? So I worked for a health insurance company, so I knew that the EAP program would be dope. Done some research on it, and I found out that I was offered 8 free sessions, and everyone who lived in my home could also get 8 free sessions. I was like, oh, that's pretty dope. Let's do that. So I signed up. I was like super nervous, and I remember when God told me I could go to therapy. This was the day after my 28th birthday. I was driving up 64 West, and I heard God so clearly say, Cierra, I released you to go to therapy. It's like, okay, cool. So I reached out, got it scheduled. So I started therapy, or I was in therapy from August of 2019 up until September of 2020. So over a year I was in therapy, and I think initially I was seeing the therapist twice a month, and then I think we started going to like once a month. Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and give the disclaimer. The therapist I was seeing was Caucasian. I like to call them wonderful people, and African American people I call beautiful. So for the purpose of this conversation, when I say wonderful, you'll know that I'm calling the Caucasian woman wonderful. And if I'm referring to a beautiful person, I can't talk. If I'm referring to a beautiful person, I'm referring to someone who is African American or black. So yes, therapist was wonderful. Older, wonderful woman. She was very kind to me for the most part. I enjoyed my sessions with her. But I remember like during my first session with her in August of 2019, that it was just so, at first it was a little weird because I'm like, I'm actually in here telling a stranger all of my business. But it's okay. It's a safe space. Like it's perfectly fine. And I remember her letting me like write on the dry erase board, and I felt like I was good. I was drawing pictures, telling her about my childhood. Like, I grew up in a church, and the church was like in my backyard, and the church became my safe haven. And she said something to me during that session, and I'm like, oh, I'm fixed, I'm healed, I'm good to go. And what ended up happening was, after walking out of that session, life legit fell apart. So we spent the next year or so literally putting my life back together. And that pretty much was what that was. But this video is in regards to me getting kicked out of therapy. So we started off doing, hey, this is great, feeling liberated leaving sessions, like I can take on the world. And like I said, it was 8 sessions. So I think my 8 sessions were up in, I think I had used all 8 going into 2020. So I think in January 2020, I was actually starting to pay. My copay was cheap, so I was like, oh, that's all I gotta pay you? Oh, I'm gonna be here all the time. So I think I started going like once a month. But of course, during 2020, March, we went into a pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, with my job, I would go actually into people's homes to complete the assessments for my job. So I spent a lot of my time doing face-to-face visits with people. So being that we're in the pandemic, everything is over the phone. It's just like, hey, this is a little weird. I didn't live alone at the time, so I was forced to be around these people. I love them. We did like family game nights and stuff, so this was like really great. But also in that time, going into January of 2020, I was preparing to move out on my own. So like the pandemic was just kind of like a plus, because I had to work on some things within myself. I had to stack my money because your girl was gonna be paying her rent by herself. So it was, you know, that. But in regards to my last session, which resulted in me getting kicked out of therapy or improperly discharged. So I remember going into that last session in September, and I had taken my phone with me. I had both of my phones. I have my personal phone, I had a work phone, and I don't recall why I needed to have my work phone with me. I think I was supposed to do something on my work phone, and I just had it. And I also had my work computer. But I believe in the session prior to that, I may have complained to her about me feeling like I was overworked, I was doing too much. But at the same time, I went and got a second job. I was working at Amazon. The session before I got kicked out of therapy, it was a very emotional session because I had recently moved. Things didn't go as I had intended for the move. So I legit sat on the couch and was a bucket of tears. I'm talking about non-stop crying. Like, and she was just like, oh my gosh, Cierra, like, and it was just, you know, we're in the pandemic, so she couldn't come over and like actually console me, but from a distance, she was just like, let it all out, you know, you're human. No, very empowering. Like, I feel seen. Thank you so much, therapist. But that next session, y'all, in September, I saw a whole nother person. Whole nother wonderful woman. Woo-hoo. So during the session, like I said, I came into the session with the phone. So I don't know if that's why she was upset, because I had my phone. But during the session, we go about, we're talking, we're laughing, we're talking about stuff that has nothing really to do with me. I know at some point we were talking about a hole in the ceiling. Like, what happened there? She was like, oh, the people came to fix the AC, and they were in the attic and they fell through, like in the hallway or something. You know, I was like, oh, okay, we're just laughing, joking, kicking the breeze, because like, hey, this is my therapist. You got to make this very comfortable, I thought. And at some point we're talking about my car and how I used to have to drive like over an hour to go to see clients for work when I was doing intensive in-home and mental health skill building for people who had mental health issues, like troubled children who were at risk for out-of-home placement. So that's what I was doing prior to my current job, and I was like, woo, had to let that go. But conversation, I guess I told her one too many times that I told you that already. And I'm going to say this. I'm a very sarcastic person. She knows that I'm a sarcastic person. I don't mean to come off rude, but you could be my friend, you could be my mama, you could be my daddy, you could be my supervisor. Don't tell me that I ain't told you something. And I very much so have told you something. And she said that like multiple times during the session. Oh, you didn't tell me that. And I'm like, I did. I did tell you that. And she was like, how? And I was like, because you had that same exact reaction. But she did this multiple times during the session. Like, I didn't know you worked at such and such place. And I was like, yeah. And then like she'll roll her eyes and I'm like, what's wrong? And she, you know, she'll tell me whatever it was that she had going on. And I was like, oh yeah. Yeah, I remember you saying that. So, kid you not, like her feet and hands leave the ground. Like, I mean, like her feet, she's not that much taller than me, but like her feet lift up, both of them. I can't lift my feet up like I want to. Like both of her feet leave the ground, her hands fly up. And she's just like, Cierra, it's not about the cookie cutter things in life. I'm here for your mental health and you want to play games and I don't have time for it. And like that was the tone that she kept for a very, very long time. So for a good 10 seconds, I'm just staring at her like, I don't even know what I look like, but I imagine I was just like, what the ham sandwich is wrong with this lady? Like, why is she yelling at me? So in her yelling, she says to me that I'm lonely. I push people out of my life, so I'm the reason why people don't want to deal with me. I haven't made any progress since seeing her, and I'm wasting my time and her time, and that will be my last session with her. And I was like, excuse me? And I recall saying to her, you went from 0 to 100 real quick. What is wrong with you? Like, type thing. Like, I know I said 0 to 100 real quick. But for me, I'm not a confrontational person, so when someone attacks me, I immediately shut down. Like, I shut down, and then give me about somewhere between 20 seconds and a minute, it flips, it turns, so now I'm like angry, and I'm like, what just happened? Like, what just happened? So I'm like telling her the things that I've made progress in, and she goes, and laughing. So this, oh my gosh, my blood is boiling because I can't believe you're disrespecting me like this. Like, I'm legit telling her things like, you told me this. She was like, telling her like, I did this. Like, no you didn't. And then I had to check her on telling me that I was lonely. And I'm like, yes, I live by myself, but I am not lonely because God is with me. This is supposed to be a Christian therapist I was seeing, guys. Let's say that. The place that I picked was supposed to be a Christian place. So, biblically based, you know, she would tie like God into sessions. We never like open or close with prayer or anything, but she had a Christian background, so that's what it was supposed to be. But it was the fact that she made those statements to me. I'm like, I cannot believe that this lady did this, or this lady said this to me. Like, I'm lonely, I push people out of my life, I haven't made any progress, I'm wasting her time and my time, and that was the last time she was supposed to see me. And I'm like, whoa, do you have the right to tell me that? And my reason, I always like to say, my reason for going to therapy is because when I'm upset, I don't handle situations in the most healthiest of ways. I think about like crazy stuff, and I don't care. Like, I don't care if y'all know this, but I'm definitely that person who needs Jesus. Like, I'm better now when I get upset, but prior to like therapy and stuff, like when people would make me upset, I'm like, yo, I wanna y'all not gonna judge me. Y'all not gonna judge me, right? No, we're honest. This is my YouTube, and I say what I want to say. Like, it's kind of like I want to slash tires, But that's why I realized, like, that's why I need Jesus, because Jesus be like, turn the other cheek. Like, Cierra, you don't slash people's tires. I've never done that before. Like, these are just my thoughts in my mind. I've never slashed anybody's tires. I'm not gangster enough to do those things. Like, I'm the person who, like, cry when I get upset. But I'm like, that's what I want to do. Like, that's why I need Jesus and therapy, because I want to slash people's tires, but I can't slash people's tires because I know, like, what you reap what you sow. And like, if I'm slashing people's tires, then somebody might slash my tires, and God has a sense of humor. But yes, that happened to me. Okay, I said this in a lot more calmer way. Like, when I was rehearsing this in my mind, I'm like, y'all, I don't know how I'm gonna say this, but that's pretty much what happened, guys. That's how I got kicked out of therapy. Because apparently I told my therapist maybe one too many times that I told you so already, and she told me, and that was kind of what happened in regards to my therapy, me going to therapy. So what life looked like after that. So this happened in September. I remember walking out of the office upset, feeling down and defeated, and I had a 4-hour shift scheduled at Amazon where I cannot address my emotions. Like, I have to be put together. I have to go in there and put these boxes on the pallet and just not be okay. So while I was driving I went to get food, and I remember going to get food and calling, like, my friends, and they were just like, oh man, that's sad. Like, that's unfortunate. But each of my friends did something, and it's just like, well, how do you feel? Do you think what she said is true? She shouldn't have said that to you in that way. If she wasn't having a good day as a professional, she should have taken care of that. But yelling at you, no. Because for me, it put me in a space where it's just like, I don't know about therapy. Honestly, I don't know about therapy, because that can't be the way that therapists treat their clients. Like, no. So what those days look like after therapy. So originally, from the jump, I was like, oh, it's a trick of the enemy. I cast her down in the name of Jesus. I am not those things. And I started at Amazon in August, and then I worked there, I think, like a consistent month. So right after this happened, I stopped Amazon. I stopped going. I started calling out. So then all of October, I was just sitting in the house, and it was legit eating at my mind. And I started to internalize what she said. Like, I was lonely. I was alone. I pushed people out of my life. I haven't made any progress. And dang, maybe I'm not therapy material. Like, yeah, so then that goes into like me just not being in a good headspace. Like, I was showing up to do what I needed to do. I wasn't going to church because church had closed for the pandemic, and then they reopened. So when church reopened, I wasn't going back. I was okay with just sitting at home and worshiping. Of course, I ended up going back to Amazon, and even with working at Amazon, that was me avoiding some things. And I had told my therapist that, actually, like, I wanted to work at Amazon because an idle mind is the devil's workshop, and I didn't want to have all this free time now that I was living on my own. I'll say this. At one point in my life, I didn't really trust myself. Like, it was a level of accountability with living with someone, living with another woman who's like my big sister. Like, okay, I ain't gonna do nothing crazy, but it's just like, well, what will you do when you live in a space by yourself? You gonna be inviting people over here? Just like, no, I don't think so. And so I was like, if I go get another job, then I won't have all this free time. And with my full-time job, I work at home anyway. So I'm like, if I get a second job, I can build up some money for the holiday. I can pay off some bills. I can do all these things. But all in all, I was avoiding the bigger issue, and that is confronting some things with Cierra. So by November, this happened in September, so by November, I'm like completely tapped out. I am not happy in my job. I'm not happy in my friendships. I'm just overall not happy. And the opportunity is availed to me to get on an airplane and fly to California, like to see one of my closest friends. Like, I'm like, yes, I am going. So I did that for Thanksgiving. I ended up flying out there, and I remember pretending to be in this happy space because she's a licensed clinical social worker. And I'm like, y'all, I can't go out there and like, she know that I'm falling apart. So I go out there, you know, we have a great time. It was great to be with her and her family. End up coming back, still not in a good headspace. And we're just like, all right, we just got to push through. We just got to get through, you know, these next couple of days. And then I knew that I was going to let the Amazon job go. And then I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in regards to my full-time job, because as I said, I just wasn't in a good space. Like, I ain't been to therapy in months. I have been going to therapy for over a year. Like, it's just a lot going on. And yeah, it was just a lot. And going through like December into the holidays, it was just not the holidays weren't good. And then that's what, you know, if you've been watching my last few videos, I refer back to me doing like this reset, like the reset fast and the reset devotion on YouVersion. And it was just like, it was a godsend, because I went from all of these things happening. Earlier in this video, I addressed where I had that session with the therapist where I just was like, I broke down crying. So what happened was I ended up moving into an apartment. The apartment was like trash. And then I ended up having to move the very next week into another apartment. But even though I was in a new apartment, it took them a month to get everything like sorted through financially. And it was just like, it was frustrating. So when I saw the therapist, it was just like everything just came out. So I went from like that to internalizing everything to avoiding the bigger issues. And then like the end of the year, I have opportunity to literally confront Cierra, to literally, I actually rededicated my life back to God then. And I honestly would say, and I say this to my friends all the time, like, did I really know God prior to December of 2020? Because if 2020 didn't teach me anything else, it taught me the importance of having a relationship with God. I said before that I grew up in church, but literally having issues thrust me into the arms of God. And that was my 2020, the latter part. Like 2020, I can honestly say, even though it was so much going on in the world, 2020 was one of the best years of my life. Contrary to what that wonderful lady told me, I achieved so many goals in 2020. I stood up for myself in 2020, except with the therapist because I was a punk. But I did so much in my 2020. Like, my 2020 was the foundation for my 2021. But yeah, that's what happened. So in regards to therapy, so September was October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 7 months ago? October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 7 months ago. So it's been 7 months since I've gone to therapy. And I can't say that I am the best. Questionable. Definitely questionable. But I know that if I do decide to go back to therapy, I'll actually say this. I was introduced, I guess you could say, to one of my friends' therapist or her life coach, and I did do a consultation with her, or initial session, and then I guess you could say I don't want to use the word fear, but I guess I can use the word fear. I let fear like kind of step in and be like, are you sure you really want to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, and also like my initial session was when I was launching the YouTube. So it was just like, I was just super overwhelmed. So I'm not really sure what I'm doing next. Because I was actually in a space where I was trying to figure out like, do I need a therapist or do I really need a life coach? Do I need a therapist? Or do I need a life coach? But the life coach is a therapist. But I'm being honest with you all. That's kind of where I am. Like, it's days where I'm just like, you know what? I need to go talk to a therapist. And I'm like, other days it's just like, or you could just go through with your life coaching. Go through. Get some things together. Sort through some things. Yeah. So that's all that I wanted to tell you all. That's kind of where I am. Being completely honest. Yeah. Just being completely honest. This is what I do. Yeah, but it's definitely time, because it's been 7 months and I need to talk to somebody that's not my friends, that's not my family. Yeah. So I thank you all for joining me for another episode on Conversations with Cierra. And if you're not following me, please do so. I am sisterc.inspires on Instagram, and I am Cierra Small on Facebook. I have a personal Instagram, but I rarely I do upload on it, but it's not as often as sisterc.inspires. And until next time, I'll holla. Oh yeah, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Drop some comments down here. Let me know that y'all watching, because I don't be knowing who watching the video. Like, I see the views, but I'm like, leave some comments so I know like who's actually watched. Okay? All right. I holla.